Welcome to Achieving the Ultimate Life Through Hustle and Prayer. We have a dear man to my life here with us today, a brother of mine, a fellow path walker, Mr. Kerry Rhodes. Kerry Rhodes was born in Alabama. He was a high school football quarterback, a basketball star. He went on to play 8 years in the NFL. In 2010, he was named NFC Interception Return Yard Leader. He was an MVP in the NFL, All-Pro, and in 2010, 2011, got named to the Kentucky chapter of the NFL Hall of Fame. He was the top 4th NFL safety in 2012. He's a producer, an actor, a philanthropist, and in my opinion, an extraordinary human being. Welcome, Kerry Rhodes. Number 25.
How you doing, man?
Most excellent, my brother. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Hey, anytime you come knocking, man, anytime the family comes knocking, you know I'm there, brother. I'm always there.
Brother, you are a family man. Yeah. You know, let's start with that. What kind of family environment did you grow up in?
Man, family life, it was good. I mean, just like I think a lot of people's stories, man, I think there was turmoil, there was ups and downs, there were hard times, but there was also a lot of love, a lot of time spent. Like my parents were workers. They had me young. They had me at a young age. My parents had me at like 18. So they had me at 18. They got married. They've been together since. And they've always had to work and always had to go after money and financial stability to raise us, right? So they were always on the go, but they were always there in that sense. But I think from an emotional standpoint, they weren't. So I had to kind of grow up a little quick, and I had to miss some of those intimate moments of care and finesse and love in an emotional sense because of it. So I had to grow up fast, but like I said, they were always there. I always had stability. I always saw what hard work looked like, and I always saw what going after things and achieving things looked like. You know, from that standpoint, from my mom and dad. So to say they were there would be an understatement, but to say they were there in all aspects would also be an overstatement. So it was trying to find that balance.
Brother, let me ask you, growing up in Alabama in the 80s and 90s, very real look. As a black man, does racism, did it still exist? Does it still exist today?
Hell yeah, it exists. It exists for sure. But I think obviously as a young lad, as a young man, that stuff wasn't as prevalent to me. But I also, like, for me, you know, I lived in Alabama, but I also moved around because my dad was in the Navy. So I lived in New York, so I saw that part of it. I lived in Florida for a little while. Then I came back to Alabama. So like having these different versions or these different versions of life and racism and not feeling racism in New York as much, but also feeling it more as I got older in Alabama, like seeing those different aspects of it helped me become better at understanding people and understanding situations, because I think we're always as youngsters, and once you get to an age of understanding the way certain things work, you get to see all these different aspects of it, and you get to form your own opinions of it instead of being in the South and growing up from infancy all the way into adulthood. If I was stuck in that environment and really fell victim to what that looked like, instead of being able to move around and go to college and being in New York and being in Florida and seeing different versions of what that can be, being able to have all that experience helped me to decipher and know that racism is a state of mind and not something that you have to grow up in and just be a victim of. You know what I mean? So I was fortunate myself to see all these different versions of it and then form my own opinions of it. But does it exist? Yes. But was I one to really always use that as a crutch or blame that as something that dictates my life? No. You know, so I had that ability to kind of decipher both of them from the beginning.
Kerry, now that you've had an extraordinary career, a truly outstanding career in the NFL,
Yeah.
you've gone on to work in the artist industry, producer, actor, undercover stand-up comedian.
Yeah, yeah,
Now you're in the studio recording a few things
yeah.
with an amazing voice. I mean,
Thank you.
I'm completely blown away by it. Many times when, as men, when we miss out on the emotional support of our household, of our parents,
Yeah,
and we experience bias, whether it's because the color of our skin
yeah,
or our ethnic origins, or maybe we stutter, or maybe we have a limiting physical condition.
yeah,
Like you said, these can become crutches, these can become excuses.
yeah.
How have you turned all those deficits around in your life? Talking to a dude right now that's just listening, that maybe has these excuses present in his life, what would you say to him? What practical experience would you share to turn that from a negative to massive rocket fuel to success?
Yeah, that's a good question. I spoke about it a little bit earlier, but like the crutches, the excuses, I mean, it's all fear based, right? We live in a fear based society anyway. And a lot of us, if we don't see the tangible thing in front of us to start or have what a lot of people will call goals or New Year, if they don't have a clear picture of what that looks like, they run from it. And I've fell victim to it as well. I mean, to see outside of the existential things, the things that are present in front of us, like being able to see those things, it just it also gives us a crutch. It lends us a crutch because we know that that's a thing that we can presumably work hard at to achieve. But it's also being able to take that leap of faith and starting to work on yourself spiritually and working on that inner love and that inner voice, that stuff that you have that we all innately have there. Like being able to tap into that source is where the magic happens because anybody can, and I think everybody has the ability to do anything they want. This is my personal belief. I think anybody has the chance to do whatever they want. And I mean, we talk about yourself, we talk about anybody else. Like we all can do anything great. The thing that makes the Meryl Streeps of the world, the Joaquin Phoenixes of the world, people that are really considered the best at their crafts, they're able to access this and get to this point inside where the outside voices don't matter. The fear-based stuff doesn't matter. And if it does matter, they're able to use that as fuel. Where people that are stuck and trapped in what the government and what our parents and what our elders taught us as kids and made that our existence for however long it's been to the point where you're able to break free of that chain, those things those things are set up to limit us as people. Those things are set up to make us believe that we're supposed to get married at 20 and have kids and live in them, have our white picket fence and have that stuff, instead of being dreamers and lovers and believers and stuff that is bigger than that. Like being able to step outside of that and break those chains and then get to this point where, wow, I can be the best at I can be the best athlete in the world, but I can also be the best entertainer in the world too, having these bigger goals, these broader visions of excellence, you know? And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. I was able to live this life and be really successful in my first profession and not have that be the end game for me. Like I always knew that there was something outside of that. And I knew that the greatness that I have to offer, it just doesn't, it's not stuck in that moment. That moment was a great moment. That moment was a moment of, I'm proud of it. I'm able to say I've done it, but it doesn't define me. And it never will because I know that with the rest of my time on this planet, in this body, as this person right now, the sky is still the limit. Like I still have so much more to explore. And I know that the visions that I have and the the places that I still want to go to are still there, they're still present without me seeing it, because I know that it's already written for me. And having those visions of walking with people like yourself, people of faith and people of spirit and people of love, and understanding that that is the ultimate meaning of any man in this world, to get into that space and find that space. When you go there, everything else skyrockets, man, and the fear part just doesn't exist anymore. So for me, I would tell anybody that wants to break those chains, I think, just like I said, just find some kind of balance and some kind of practice that makes you look outside of yourself, because this is only part of it. But when you tap into that source, when that source is present for you, then you can go be great. And that's where I am.
Wow, that is real shit, bro. That is some real shit. Thank you, bro.
Yeah,
Bro,
man.
let me ask you. So let's go here a little bit for the little boy inside of all of us.
Mhm.
What does it take to be an NFL player?
It takes it takes a lot. It takes obviously it's a God given ability, right? Number one, it's a God given ability. Like everybody just when I say everybody can go towards the goal and be what they want, that is true. There are people in the NFL that aren't as gifted as, say, a Tom Brady or uh, a Lamar Jackson or whatever the case may be, just athletically gifted. So there are levels there are levels to greatness, and it's all perception. But when you have the skill set that's already given to you that most people don't have, that's a gift. Now, when it comes to the hard work part of it, I mean, studying at your craft every day. I mean, there's a level of getting better that can be achieved every day. You can always be better. Doesn't matter if you are Tom Brady or Lamar Jackson. Those guys work at their craft every day, and that doesn't mean that you're overexerting yourself in any way, because life's about balance too. But there's something you can do to a certain degree to get better at whatever it is you do. I mean, as an actor, I don't study performances every day. I sometimes study speech. I sometimes study accents. Sometimes I study the depth of somebody's voice in a certain role that gives off a certain thing. There's so many nuances, so many intangible things to get better, right? And so you take all those things and put it into your craft. Football, whatever it is, there's going to be days where you can work on your nutrition. You can work on speed training. You can work on your lateral movement. You can work on your diet. You can work on getting strong. Like it's so many things. So I think as long as you know that the work is going to be there and you have to do the work at it, you have a chance. And that's what I would tell anybody, man. Just really work at your craft, whatever it is.
So what you're saying is really a beautiful thing, because what we're doing here, uh, what Kerry and I are doing here is we're using the NFL as a metaphor for life.
Right. Right.
Because life requires dedication, life requires overcoming adversity. Success in life, as Kerry so well pointed out, requires balance. It requires a spiritual component, and to sustain success, you require dedication and study. Okay. Okay, let me ask you something. You went in the fourth round of the pick.
Mhm.
You were about 123, 125 in the draft. Was there a fear in your heart after round two, after round three? Oh my God, did I make a mistake? Talk to us about what was happening in that moment.
Yeah, man. That took a lot of for me. That took a lot of patience, a lot of belief, a lot of belief in myself, a lot of belief in, like I said, the time and the hours I put in, the belief in that, the belief that I did the right thing, because um, I came out with the belief that I would go anywhere from the second round, which is the top 60 players in the country, to the fourth round. And obviously, when you come out, being an NFL guy, you think you're gonna go the higher, right? I'm going to go second round. And so I had my family there. I had my mother, my dad, my grandmother, my brothers. Like we're all in the hotel, like waiting for the call. And that first day went by and no call. And I was like, what? Why am I still here? And so I remember being really, really upset and really, like really down. It took my parents, it took my mom, my dad, like it took them to really rein me back in and let me know that, I mean, this isn't a mistake. You're going where you're supposed to go. You know you're not going to be around too much longer, but just go out, go have fun, get your mind off it, and just and like and what we talk about a lot, man, just be in the moment of that moment now. That moment was a bad moment for you, perceived bad moment at the time, and go out and have some smart fun, get your mind off it. And I did that night. Went out, and I was actually in college at my college, in my university still. So I went out and met some friends, and we hung out a little bit and kind of took my mind off it. But I remember at the moment, man, I was really upset. I thought I thought number one, they're getting it wrong. I'm the guy. You're passing on the right guy here. So having those moments, but the next day came. The New York Jets came calling early on the second day, fourth round. I was one of the early picks that day, and I remember telling them that they were going to get a guy that's coming in hungry, a guy that wanted to work, a guy that has a lot to prove. And I remember that I used that for motivation from day one. I felt slighted, and some people would think that's an ego thing, or they would think that's the wrong way to approach it. But for me, I needed some sort of chip on my shoulder anyway, and that kind of gave me that proverbial chip. And I knew from day one, once I got there, they're going to get the best version of me. So it all ended up working out for the betterment. And I think that's a thing with life as well, where we see things as a perceived hit. But when you step back and remove yourself from that initial pain or that trauma or that moment of grief or sadness or dismay or whatever it may be, at it from above, you get to see that, and it brings a different perspective and a different perception of it. And for me, it happened to be the best thing that happened. I came in, worked, and went to a team that wanted me and started from day one. I was a starter from day one playing for the Jets, and I didn't look back from there.
So I think you make an interesting point. I feel, and also in my own life, when we have a chip on our shoulder, when we have something in our life that we don't take out on other people,
No.
but we use it as a driver.
Yeah.
You take that shit and you make it fertilizer to grow, to flourish.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And you touched on something that's important, and I'm going to ask you a question that I know the answer to.
Yeah.
How many games did you play without a team around you, like you being the only man on the field?
0.
And that night, when you were having moments of doubt, it was a team of family members around you.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, how important is team to success?
It's everything. It's everything. No man can do anything alone. I mean, we all can be driven to be the best version of what that man looks like and go out and carry your weight. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't work. And once again, it translated to my life with that is I felt that way early on in my life. When I left the league, having multiple resources that were in my wheelhouse. I mean, financially, I was always okay. Connections, I was okay. In football, like you said, it is a team thing, but you also are driven. If you're one of the best ones and you want to be the best, you're driven by yourself. Like you can be self-motivated. So I've always had those things. And so when I went into the entertainment industry right after football, I kind of carried those same principles. And that for me, it was kind of like it was a mind fuck for me because I had to realize that yeah, in this part of your life, you were able to be self-driven and do this and achieve these things. Obviously, what we just said, it is a team, and you can only succeed with a team, but you can have individual goals and an individual drive. And in this business, it's the ultimate team business. Like you can't produce a movie by yourself. You can't go get the funds by yourself. You can't act by yourself. You can't be the star without other stars around you. So being able to use that, and also just as a man, as a real man, and what a man should be, being able to look at yourself and say, I can't do this alone. And I think that's also when we talk about the toxic masculinity part of this whole conversation, the definition of a man for me coming from the South and knowing that racism exists and that knowing that certain things exist for us, it's harder for a black man to achieve certain things. And so you tend to block out everybody else, the noise, the people, anybody else that can be somebody that distracts you from your greater purpose and whatever that is supposed to be for your life. You go get it. Like we have to do this ourselves. It's us against the world, but that's not the case. And so once I was able to open those doors and open my heart to know that, Kerry, ask for help. You got all these people in your life. You got people that want to help you. You got what they really like you, people that really want to be there for you. Don't be afraid to ask them for help. Like being able to ask for help is a strong thing. It's one of the strongest things you can do. It shows people that you're real and you're authentic and you're not this Superman. And for me, breaking that down and being that vulnerable guy, that guy with humility, that guy who's not ashamed to say, "Hey, Carlos, I need a little help." You know, like being that guy is the guy that I ultimately I am now, and I was striving to be a few years ago.
Bro, that's beautiful. Let me ask you though, when we talk about team, sometimes the people around us aren't the right fit, you know,
Oh,
and you know, and it might be somebody we hired, which is a little easier to release from.
yeah,
Sometimes we hire our cousin and we realize, wow, it's not working out, but I gotta see this guy or this gal every Christmas.
yeah,
But in the concept of team, there's a phrase that says you can never fly with eagles when you hang out with turkeys.
absolutely, right.
What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
That's everything in my life. Like when you're in the right circle, in the right group of people, the elevation process happens easy. The elevation process happens the way it's supposed to. And when you're with the wrong people, there's no lift off. You're going to find yourself in situations where, number one, you may be the big dog in the room. And if you're the big dog in the room, it's not a problem. You're in the wrong room. So it's all about elevation, right? You don't want to be stagnant in life. I think, like I said, every day there's a chance to grow, a chance to learn, a chance to be the voice for somebody, the chance to be the ear for somebody. And I think that's the magic of being in the right group. If you're in the right group of people, the elevation process happens organically, and you can just see you, or you can see me, and you'd be like, he's going for it. Like I want to go for it too. And that stuff happens it happens without it just happens the way it's supposed to happen, right? And when you're the only guy in the room and other people are leeching you tend to find yourself in the mud. You're constantly in an uphill battle. Um, and your energy's low, and you find out that these people are energy suckers. Like this isn't where I should be. And I think if you listen to that and you feel that, and once you're in a position like we are, where the ability to feel that energy pool and feel these other dynamics happen around you, and you can kind of navigate and go with that, that's when you know you're ready to ascend and be where you're supposed to be.
I totally agree. Energy vampires. We we often don't see them at first. You
Yeah,
you have to develop a feeling for the energy fangs,
yeah,
but once you become aware that people, places, and situations or habits in your life are robbing energy from you, you
yeah.
have to take the corrective steps to eliminate that. And as you said, elevate above that and find the places, spaces, and people that do help carry you and that you can help carry in a positive, forward moving way.
And yeah, and the thing about that, yes, it's a normal thing for us though as humans. We have to go through certain things to elevate, right? So you go through things, you either elevate or you don't. And sometimes some people don't. And that's the that's the hard part about it because we are in the positions we're supposed to be in to learn. And some people learn faster than others, some people don't. But when you're aware of it, and I think that comes with age, but it also comes with being able to, like we talked about, spiritually develop and spiritually grow and find those other avenues to be yourself and to blossom, right? I think that's where the challenge lies for a lot of us because we're so used to that feeling, and that feeling starts to become normal and okay, and that's not okay. Like that's the part of it where you have to feel those things and be able to know that that's not right, and it's not okay for me. I can be better. I can grow. I can. Th- this isn't the norm. This isn't my new norm. My new norm is this in the elevation. So once you're able to access that and realize that that's a real possibility for you, then you're able to ascend to higher to greatness.
But and speaking of greatness in life, uh, it's so different for so many people.
Yeah.
But the average guy watching us here right now is a person that aspires also for professional greatness. They are looking to be the best in their field, the best in their craft, as you said,
Yeah.
a leading entrepreneur, and and much like you, coming from a place where money was something that my mom had to work very hard for,
Mhm.
that my dad bent a lot of life's rules, broke a lot of life rules to get, or social rules, laws, and so forth.
Yeah.
Let me ask you: when you're there, how? So, from for the guy that's going to go from having very little to all
Mhm.
of a sudden having millions in the bank,
Yeah.
what could you say to him? What are some of the warnings? What is some of the advice? Because money does not change who you are; it magnifies your personality. So what can you say to what words of wisdom do you have for those that are going to move into from not having a lot of money in the bank to having a lot of money in the bank? What does Kerry have to share with them?
Number one, money's energy. It comes and goes, right? I think number one, you have to you have to it comes back to teamwork, right? You have to have a team of people around you that you trust. Because there are going to be people coming in from all different angles. Old cousins, old friends from the hood that think you owe them, uh, relatives that your third cousin, your uncle from your other third cousin, like it's a thing. Like people come around, right? So you have to number one know that it's not there. It's not permanent. Nothing's a permanent thing, so it's not a permanent thing, right? It can come and go. Number two, like put some money away. I mean, you're gonna have fun. You're a kid that's coming into money. You want to enjoy some of that, so enjoy it, but put some away. Really stick to a budget. Stick to a limit of spending. Understand that you're only getting paid, especially with football, where you're only getting paid for 6 months of the year, and only during those 6 months are you getting paid during the season. So those other six, you can't spend like you're spending in season, right? Like that just doesn't make sense. You can't. Like the money's gonna disappear that way. You're going to want to take care of people that mean something in your life, and that's okay, but also learning when to do that at its maximum, at its minimum, knowing what that looks like, really drawing out and executing a plan with that. And also the number one thing, which is very hard for a lot of people, especially coming from the economical standings and backgrounds of, like you just said, myself, who didn't have money as a kid, but you're coming into these millions now, being able to say no. No is not a bad word, man. No is also going to empower some people to get off their butts and go out and make their stuff on their own as well. So there's a limit. Okay, you want to help, but also knowing no, knowing when to say no. And yeah, man, I think those are the basic core things I would tell people, but also just understanding that, like you said, it doesn't make life easier. It doesn't. It may give you certain access to things, to stuff that will one day not be of service or you won't even care about at the end of the day. So spend wisely. I have some of that stuff where I bought shoes and things that I've never worn, and I look back at it like, dude, what in the hell were you thinking? Like even then, and I'm happy I went through those things, because for me, I'm a man. I'm a healer. I'm a man that wants to help. I'm a guy that wants to spread the knowledge to others and let them understand that through my mistakes, like, you can see this, and I'm going to give it to you real and authentic, and you're going to understand where it comes from. And it gives you the opportunity to not make that same mistake, but also it gives you the opportunity to, if you want, you can still go out and do it yourself. I'm not going to tell you not to do this, but I'm going to tell you what it did to me and what it means to me and how I was able to bounce back from it or go through it, or like all these things. I'm going to give you the blueprint of what not to do, but by all means, do what you want, because I know how that works as well. So just that's the blueprint, but also, man, just you have to have fun and enjoy it too. It's a fine line.
But let me ask you something, because it is a fine line. But I watch you set that example because anybody that has seen pictures of you knows that you're an incredibly sharp dresser.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking
Thank you,
you. Um, you definitely are not, because sometimes to save money we suffer. We come into a scarcity mindset. That's not you. But you're not a guy that drips his cash. You don't wear your money.
no.
Why do you choose so many athletes and so many, especially younger, successful people, wear their money?
Yeah.
Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Rolex. They drive their money.
Yeah.
Why do you choose not to do that?
I mean, like I said, not coming from much for me. Like like I said, my parents were really. I have to say, like I said, they were really good. They were always there. So I had the backbone. My mom and dad are really smart people as well. They gave me some advice about that stuff early on, but also for me personally, I also do a lot of research, and I've seen like the most wealthy men in the world. They don't invest their money. They don't invest their money in that. So from me, like being able to look at something, and like I said, give the blueprint. I've been given the blueprint, and I've seen it, so it gives me the choice. Having this information available to me gives me the opportunity to take that in, see it, understand it, and if it makes sense for my life, apply it. Right. So I've seen that. I know what that looks like, and for me, I just don't. So besides that, I don't care about many material things. There are some things that I do want, but does it enhance my life? Does it bring value to my life? Does it make me feel like the person that I want to be ultimately? And ultimately, for me, I want to live a life of service. I want to live a life of complete love. I want to live a life of real happiness from whatever that comes from for me. And I can tell you what that comes from for me later on. We can talk about that. But like those factors for me, like I weigh that with purchases. Like, what does that do for me? Me having a certain car, and I do have a nice car, but I don't have 10 nice cars. I have two. and that works for me. You know what I mean? Like that's my. So yes, do I indulge a little? Absolutely. Just like I think everybody should. But just because I have the means to splurge, what the young people call it, I just choose to live comfortably in my splurge choices. And I can always look at it and say, I wanted that. I appreciate that. That brings joy to my life, those few things. And that's all I need. I don't have to show anybody else that I can do more for their love. I just want my love to be okay. And that's where I find my happiness in.
Brother man, NFL player, Hollywood producer, actor, but you talk about love, you talk about the internal work,
Yeah.
you talk about that happiness, you talk about spirituality, being a healer, being of service.
Right.
What? So let's talk about that right now. What is that happiness to you? What does spirituality mean to you? How does it play into success? Bring it all together for us.
Spirituality for me it's put me in the best position I've ever been in my life. For me, I'm the best version of myself. I used to have a problem with coming from my first profession, football, not being able to be emotional, not being able to be compassionate, not being able to be empathetic because that wasn't conducive to my lifestyle before. If I were those things when I played football, I'm sure I wouldn't be the same successful person that I was in that sport. So that was one of the biggest things in my life, being able to get past that, number one, and elevate myself to my spiritual path because I knew after leaving the game and being depressed for a little while after, for a year or so, really not having that fame as high as it was, not having the big checks come in as much as they were, and having the same type of fans at that time. And like people still know me, people still celebrate me to a certain degree, but it wasn't the same. And so I always see other guys who leave the game and where they get depressed and they become suicidal and they have these bad thoughts because of what they've been doing their whole life being taken away from them at such a young age and not having something else to fall back on. For me, my fallback plan was acting, but also my fallback plan was really working on the spiritual side of me and finding that person that was always there inside of me, the person that was screaming out that couldn't come out, making him live and be in the forefront. And so the thing about that made it a hard transition was I think a lot of people, once they leave something that's a perceived negative or something that's been a big factor in their lives, they completely cut that cord, and then they overemphasize or uh, they don't find the right balance with the next thing they do, and so it becomes more of a burden being that person too. So that's where we come back. We talked about from the beginning, like really finding that balance. So I had to for like a year, I didn't watch football because I didn't want any of that to be present in my life. Like I was just completely, I'm going this way and I'm going to be this person. And it hurt me so bad because there was a certain void of my life that was missing, and that was the void. I had to go back and connect with that person as well. The bad, the good, the ugly of that profession before me. Had to connect with that and really start looking at football and know why I was embarrassed by it, also know why I was proud of it. So really finding that understanding of what that whole time of my life encompassed for me. So once I got there and found the meaning of that and knowing that, oh, this wasn't a bad thing. This is who I was. I had to be this person to survive. Now, it didn't make me thrive as a total human being, but it made me thrive in that profession. And so that's part of me. And so once I connected with that along with my journey of ascension and spiritual growth and all those things, when I brought that together, it made me whole. And now the person that I am now, I carry all of that going forward. I know my ugliness. I know what the best parts of me are. And so when things don't go perceived right or wrong, I can remove myself from the situation and look at me and say, who are you? All the noise outside of that doesn't matter. Who are you? And once you connect with that and know that that's the source, all the chaos around you doesn't mean anything. It's all about getting back to the good person and that person that you are. And so once you're able to have that wholeness, that fullness, that awareness of outside circumstances not being able to control that, that's when you're on the right path. And that's the path that I'm on. And that's how I live. And so, I mean, to bring it all full circle, man, that's who I am. I'm able to live authentically me, always come from love, and let that be the deciding factor. If I can't make a decision based off love and make the right one in my mind, I can have faith in knowing that love is the only way, and I can just ride with that and let that be the deciding factor.
Love is all we got.
That's all we have, man. That's it.
Well, let me ask you, would you be willing to share a blueprint for spiritual development with us? Your
I mean,
blueprint?
there's a lot. I know we talked about. There's a book that I read recently. And I read it multiple times. Actually, it's long. It's a long read. It's a very in depth read as well. Like you may have to read the certain chapters over a couple of times to really, really, really get it. But it's a book by Marianne Williamson. It's called A Return to Love, and she's coming from obviously a spiritual background with the book, and I think that's the driving force behind it all. But she also comes from a different perspective, as you know, she's stepped into politics, she's done other things outside of that, um, and some of her beliefs are that I would say not a progressive way in some of her overall thinking, but the basis of love and what she teaches there is something that, like I said, I really stick to. I really found a lot of good points in it, and yeah, that's something that I would recommend that everyone take a read at and check it out. And it's like anything else. Like you use the certain thing, you use all the thing. It's a big read, but you use a certain thing in that read that you associate with, and you can find a place for in your life to make it a better one.
Well, let me ask you, because I know you shared with me, and I've seen you, uh, especially with children. You
Yeah,
do volunteer work with children.
yeah,
What value? I mean, by your actions, it's obvious. So let's put in words. In other words, in a lesson.
yeah.
Share your personal lesson of the value of giving back.
Giving back is everything because, like I said, coming from my background, not having a lot, knowing what that feels like, and knowing, like I said, now the fact that I'm fortunate and I have the ability to give back. Now it's okay. You have this. So where's your wherewithal now? Are you going to be someone that achieves certain things and gain a level of comfort, a level of making it, and be okay with that, and only now be selfish and not only think about yourself and only worry about where you can go from here on out with these riches? Or are you going to be someone that remembers that younger kid, yourself, that younger person, other people around you that don't afford those same luxuries, don't afford the same feeling you have? Are you going to want to give back that stuff? But not even just the riches and having material things, like the time. Like I said, emotionally for me as a kid, I didn't have all of those luxuries. I had my parents that were there, and they tried the best that they could, but I know how empty I felt in certain situations when it came to knowing how to handle emotions, knowing how to express myself, and knowing that stuff. So charity work and giving back and philanthropy is not just giving a dime; it's giving your time. And I always tell people to always be available for that. And with me, if there's anything that I can do with children and time and being a role model and giving them advice, because advice is just as treasurable as the treasure. Giving that time and giving that and having that awareness to know that that's the biggest thing. And like I said, if I ever can do it, if I ever have a chance, I'm always there. Tonight, I'm going to a charity event for the prevention of suicide, which is a big one right now. So I'm gonna be a part of that tonight and go share my time. And I mean, you just don't know. I get so many emails and DMs about people having those type of thoughts, and it's funny that I'm the person that they come to for this now, and it's just happening organically. I haven't put out a thing saying, "Come see me if you haven't troubles." No, like I think people are coming on board, and like I give off this energy because it's a real thing, and I just want happiness. I want people to organically feel, I don't know, joy. I really want that, which is so crazy because that wasn't, like I said, that I wasn't thinking about that 7 years ago, you know. And so now to be the guy that I am, man, I'm just really proud of that.
So I think a big thing is you've opened your heart to change. You pointed yourself in the direction of change, and you gave yourself permission to change.
Permission. That's a good one. Yeah, we've had me and you. We've had really good talks about this and about stepping out, and we talked about the toxic masculinity thing. That's a big thing that I talk about in my podcast and tackling life and all that stuff, and just really tapping into the source, man. For us as men, we've just we haven't been brought up the fair, like in a fair way, right? Like we've always had to exert a level of machismo that just doesn't, you're never going to be able to match. And if you do match it, you're neglecting so much more of the femininity, which for us, we talk about the balance part of it. There's a masculine side, it's a feminine side. And so being able to meet there in the middle somewhere and love yourself and love people the way they should be loved. And then then in return, you get that same love that you want and you want to give off. So it's a magic place there for us. And I think as we continue to have these conversations and find that medium for us as men, then I think we'll make the world a better place. And I like this, and I like these conversations because we got to be the ones that go out and step out in front, man, and lead by example.
Brother, thank you. So before we go, I just have a few more questions for you. One, how do you marry, or what is your recipe or formula when you're going to step out and risk a new venture in life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is your formula for marrying the professional mind, the professional experience with the spiritual heart, with the soul?
Ooh, I think it starts with the spiritual part of it because that never is going to fail. It's never going to fail you. Obviously, there's going to be things that work in life. They're going to be business ventures. They're going to be you putting money in some stock or whatever the case may be. That sometimes it fails, but if you do it from a place of a pure place and a spiritual place, and it's coming from the right place, eventually, even if that thing fails or that business venture doesn't work exactly the way you want it to, space that you can learn from, or there's going to be something in that space that you can take from and build the next thing that ultimately works for you. So you have to step out. You have to take chances. You have to, I don't even want to say take educated chances, just take chances. And if it's coming from a place of, it's coming from a pure place, and you really, really, really believe in your heart of hearts that it's the right decision, it's not the wrong decision. Just be able to look at the entirety of what you just did and what that ultimate thing comes from. And once you have that mind, that mind shift, and you have that ability to have that focus on the bigger picture of what that encompasses, then you have a chance to win. That's where I come from when I do it.
Well, so we've talked about you have to face your fears, right? I mean, you have to. You talked about releasing attachments when you were talking about the draft pick that you went in versus the one you expected to go in.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about having the right team around you. Mm-hmm. We've talked about giving yourself permission to make mistakes, to enjoy life. We've also talked about being prudent, being frugal. We've talked about marrying the masculine side of yourself with the feminine side of yourself.
Yeah.
We've talked about God. We've talked about love.
Mm-hmm.
To you, what is the single most important lesson that you've learned that you would like to share about life?
The number one lesson I've learned, and I think we should all be and enjoy, is being yourself. We're all unique. We all come from a place, like I said, innately, we all come from a place of greatness. We all come from love. So at the end of the day, the intricacies that we have as people, those are the things that stand out. The inside person, that inside voice, that screaming to come out, let that come out. Be organically, authentically yourself. And that's it. I don't let anybody control how I feel. I don't let anybody control where I'm going. It's it's my way coming from the real way, and that's what I usually share.
That's beautiful. And it's so obvious that your way is the way of love, the path of love.
Exactly.
Brother, other than the book Return to Love, is there another book or a course that you would like to recommend or you suggest?
There's another book, The Course of Miracles, and it's actually her again. It's actually Mary Ann, but The Course of Miracles is great. There's a lot of for people that like blueprints and people that like stuff that they can see in front of them, so they can follow exactly what it is. A Course of Miracles is really good by Mary Ann Williamson as well.
That's a great read, a thick read.
Hey, some people like the handbook, so there it is.
Yeah, that's a great handbook. That's an excellent recommendation.
Yeah.
Kerry, before we go, I'm going to ask you the question that we ask all our guests.
Yeah.
What does finding and leading a successful life through hustle and prayer mean to you?
Hustle and prayer. I'm a little biased on the hustle part. Obviously, it is very essential. I've hustled a long time in my life. I'm still hustling, obviously. I'm very much more with listening to the body and listening, and it tells you, it's going to tell you what you can do and what you can't do, because I've exerted so much the other way. And so finding that balance for me, obviously hustle is essential, so don't get me wrong, but also listening to yourself. So I would say the prayer part is a non-negotiable. That's the part where you have to talk to yourself, talk to a greater source, have those conversations, and the answers are there when you're able to listen to it. And with meditation and with prayer, all those things, being able to really access that point where you really listen to it, that's the key. And that's what I would tell people.
My brother, Kerry Rhodes.
Yes, sir. Carlos.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, brother.
Hey, I appreciate
Wow.
it. Like I told you, whenever you need me, I'm here.
Cosmic Library of Wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, brother. You guys have a good one, and we'll talk. Are you in LA? Where are you now?
I'm in Palm Springs.
Okay.
So for you watching this right now, thank you so much for joining my brother Kerry Rhodes and myself. May every day be the greatest day of your life. May you always find the glory of God resting over your shoulders, the inspiration of God is burning bright in your heart. May the great Creator always protect you and guide you. Thank you so much for being with us. God bless you. God protect you. Have a glorious day.